Hey everyone, and welcome to the second part video of the Conan Exiles AMA discussion that was posted on Reddit. So this video is going to cover the base building and the just the miscellaneous information regarding Conan Exiles. There were a few questions regarding base building within Conan Exiles. So the first question was, what type of base defenses will be available to us? They mentioned that you can build different tier walls and you can capture NPC thralls and turn them into defenders of your base. You'll also have multitude of traps available, as well as the religion system whereby you can summon a god. So this is very much similar to other survival games that have base building. Rust does have traps to an extent. You can put spike traps down, barricades. There was a question around, will we be able to build furniture for our bases, and can we and our NPCs interact with it? And their response was yes, you can definitely build furniture, and we aim to allow as much interaction as possible. So there are a couple of concerns with the fact that when we do build our bases, they're just going to be empty with nothing really in it. But from here, it looks like you're able to at least furnish your base with furniture. I'm not sure if it's going to be like tables or chairs, then you can interact with it. So I mean, this could provide some really cool RPG aspects where someone might have created almost like a tavern or a village that other players can go to and trade. There was a question around, what does the purpose of the Wheel of Pain serve in the game? Now, the Wheel of Pain was shown in the gameplay trailer that they released the other day, and this is where the NPCs are constantly working around in a circle. It looks like they're grinding something. That's the Wheel of Pain. And what they said is that it breaks the will of the people you capture and turns them into thralls or slaves. NPCs are captured by knocking them unconscious and dragging them back to your Wheel of Pain. So in the last video where I mentioned it looked like a player was being captured, that's actually an NPC. So they've knocked out an NPC, dragging it back to their base, and then they're converting that NPC into one of their slaves, which I think is really cool. It adds a new dimension to the game where there's an alternative to endgame as opposed to just raiding people and killing new players. There was also a bunch of questions about the different mechanics in Conan Exiles. So one of the questions was, do you create your own character? And if so, how deep is that experience? Their response was, yes, you do create your own character. It's deeper than most comparable to survival games. You choose your looks, your religion, your race, voice, etc. So the customization, I guess we can expect it's going to have the same level of customization as what Age of Conan had, where you can customize tattoos, hairstyle, muscle size, height, etc. And it's done with a whole bunch of sliders. There was a question around, how will the crafting work? Is it just by pressing a button and we wait until it's done? They said, yes, you'll need to build crafting stations and make sure you have the right recipes and resources. So this is pretty much the same for any survival game. However, it's honing back to that Minecraft sort of style where you need to have crafting station in order to actually build anything. So we can assume that the very basic crafting you can do without a crafting station, and then as you get more complex, you'll actually require a crafting station. One user asked, will there be any classes? Can I become a sorcerer or a thief? They said no, but you can choose to play that way if you wanted to. They said for early access launch, sorcery will not be available. If you watched my previous video about the religion system in Conan Exiles, there was a statement where they were looking at implementing sorcery in the religion system. And it almost seems like they're not really sure how to implement sorcery into Conan Exiles, because sorcery is in the Conan lore, but sorcery does have the potential of being very overpowered. So it won't make a release in early access, but I'm assuming by the time full release comes along, sorcery will be well into the game already. One user asked, are there secret events in the world which players can trigger? And they said yes, there'll be unique events that players can stumble upon. They didn't mention what sort of event, they just mentioned there'll be events. So this is going to be really cool. One user asked a question about gods, and they said, are god avatars tied to an individual character or a tribe/guild overall faith? And they were referring to the fact that in the gameplay trailer there was a player just summoning a god, and their question was in relation to, can heaps of players summon the same god? And they said you can only have one avatar active in the world at a time, one avatar of one god. So this means that if every player can create a temple for that god, it means that only the very dedicated players that have really honed up all that favor will be able to use the god. And they haven't mentioned whether or not using the god actually diminishes that favor, or if there's a cooldown for said player who summoned the god. So the next category was regarding server size, billing, and multiplayer. So just general questions around what we can expect with the game. First question was, how many players can we play with? They said that they aim to support around 70 players for the start of early access, and they say that we aim to support, so I'm assuming it's going to be a little bit less, probably maybe 50 to begin with, to see stabilization of servers and making sure that everything's optimizing, and then they'll ramp it up to 70, and possibly when full release comes around next year, they might even push that up a bit higher depending on how populated the world is. They're expecting the world to be rather big, so 70 players, they say, you will be able to wander around and not have just houses everywhere on the map. One user asked, will there be microtransactions and will there be a monthly subscription? And they said no to both. There won't be a microtransaction system and there will not be a monthly subscription. They didn't mention whether or not they're looking at a Windows Store, any other place that you can buy it from at the moment. They're just looking for a Steam release. And on that, they are just focusing on PC and Xbox One currently, and they're still considering PlayStation 4. One user asked, can you play privately in offline split screen co-op? And they said no, there'll be no split screen support. Basically, for anyone that was looking at purchasing the game and playing couch co-op with their friends, unfortunately that's not going to be in the game. It's a bit disappointing because that would be really cool, but it sort of makes sense that they want people to be playing online as opposed to just playing offline with their friends. Finally, the last question was, what sort of loading will we be looking at? Specifically, what sort of loading screens? Will we have loading screens every time you enter an area? And they said loading the first time will have a splash screen, and once you're in the game there'll be no loading, so it'll be seamless. So that about does it for all the questions that they answered in the AMA. There were a whole bunch of others, but they weren't necessarily relevant. They were a lot less detailed and not as focused as these questions were. I'll leave a link in the description below regarding that AMA if you want to read more about it. What are your thoughts? What do you think about Conan Exiles now that they've just explained a whole bunch of detail of the game? Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time.